Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a brand new episode of the Jay and Will Show. I'm Jay,
I am Will.
and as you could probably tell, this is live from the end of the Sunday night football game between the Dallas Cowboys and the Washington football team. We we're gonna wait on doing this reaction video, but it was such a bludgeonous beatdown that we decided to skip the pleasantries and just get down to the nitty gritty. So we're here live for you guys on YouTube and Twitch. And as I mentioned earlier, the Cowboys just beat the brakes off of the Washington football team this evening, a score of 56-14. And I'm not going to spend too much time talking about it, man. I'm going to kick it over to Will. Just give us your thoughts, man. Overall reaction to the victory this evening.
Man, so Dell started off with a 3-and-out, and then on the first defensive play with an interception. At
Yeah.
that point, it was over. He just felt like it was going to be a beat him down at that point. And the offense got the ball, marched down, touchdown. Got another shutdown, got the ball, marched down, touchdown. They hit 21-0 in the first quarter was insane. It's like, we've seen this before because last game, but this one felt different. They came to play. They stayed hungry the whole game. Last time it was them taking the foot off the gas and let them to get back into it. Not this time. It was a good one. Uh, Micah, he had a sack. I wanted this to be his stamp as far as defensive player of the year. Didn't quite get it because it was just sack, a couple of rushes, pass rushes, but nothing extraordinary. So that's one thing that sucks. He didn't have that opportunity to just stand out as far as being able to take over the game. But overall, yeah, it was a great game. Amari was able to get a ton of catches, got him into the game early, got him going often. Even was able to get him that score right before halftime, as well as to put it at 42-7 right before halftime. So at that point, I say, oh, okay, it just showed that they had a point of emphasis, being able to get him the ball. CD came out, was making plays. He had a drop, but that was later on in the game. I think it's still just him having to focus uh, with the ball and being able to make plays with it. Zeke had a good game. He only had 37 yards, but it was a good 37, like touchdown. He was running hard when he had touches. Pollard as well. It's crazy because like they had as far as they had just 108 yards, but it just felt like it was a lot more because when they had touches, it was like positive, like for like 4 yards a touch. Uh, uh, Almost, but it was just moving forward. I think what also helped them open up was that got running. He got sacked a couple times, but overall, the fact that he was able to move out the pocket and run, I think that's what really opened up the offense because it had him. So he was sacked 3 times, but he actually had 4 rushes for 21 yards. So it shows like he actually got out the pocket and moved and got some yardage more often than him getting sacked. So that was able to open up the offensive for more, and it was just crazy. And then you had the pick six by Tank. But that bet we've been saying that that the defense should get another point for that, them getting that touchdown included, and then the punt block on special teams, like and special teams, like I say, outside of Zerline, like that special team has been special the whole season, from kick returns, the punt blocks, then your Pro Bowl punter as well. Like special. And it's crazy because we haven't seen the special teams like that since like Joe Avadano in the '90s. Like it's been incredible. What you think?
Man, I'm just, you see victories like this and you're trying not to get ahead of yourself, right? Just because you know the potential that's there when you see a team come together like this and perform in all three phases, like you mentioned, just seeing them come together and have, we've talked about just the potential of this team when, they can put all three phases together, but it seems like one night the offense will be on, but the defense may struggle, or one night the defense may be on, but the offense may struggle, or you see some issues in the kicking game where Zerline is missing field goals, and the offense isn't producing the way they should. So depending on field goals, then Zerline's missing these field goals. So you're missing opportunities on the offensive end to kind of pay off what the defense is presenting you when they're giving you short fields to potentially capitalize off of. So this is one of the few games I've seen where they've been able to put everything together, and it's just been kind of an avalanche of what it is that we've kind of talked about from really the beginning of the season. Once we started to see the defense had some potential in terms of looking long term and what potentially could be the result of what happens when you get all three phases on the same page working together at the same time. Um, this was, I believe, the fourth time in the history of the franchise where they scored 56 points in the game. First time since 1980 since that's happened. So you're going to have potentially folks talking about how, well, it was just a Washington football team and they should have won this game. They put up 56 points and they gave up 14 when they probably shouldn't have given up 14. But, you can nitpick, of course, if you want to do that. But I don't think that last touchdown was a touchdown, but that's a separate discussion for a different day. The way this team came together just showed a lot about the potential this team has when everything is rolling on the same page. And we, like everybody else, have talked about whether or not this offense can figure it out. And I'll give you credit because you mentioned on the past couple of videos that, it could be just an issue of them, you know, I don't want to taking the foot off the gas, but just not presenting everything on the road and, waiting until, when things really matter to kind of uh, put their foot on the gas and put everything in full gear. Talked about how they perform in December. Obviously, they're undefeated. They've played all the December games. They're undefeated for the entire month of December. So obviously they're hitting the stride at the right time. We just were kind of concerned or curious, I should say, about whether or not this offense can put it together. I feel like us two were more optimistic than I was about them being able to do it. And there was a little skepticism on my end in terms of their ability to just kind of turn it on and off. I think if they can kind of package what they did today, uh, that discussion is probably over with in terms of what they're able to do. Running game wasn't what they wanted to be. Still was good, but just looking at the raw data as far as the numbers, it wasn't great. But they were able to do a lot of things based off of how they established the run game. I believe both running backs ran for over 4 yards a carry on average, and we saw Dak kind of moving around, which we talked about. We felt like would be important. And I'll let you touch on that a little bit more too, because we talked about that as we were watching the game. But there's not a lot to nitpick in this game. Obviously, just a great effort by all three phases to put this thing together, and Washington just malfunctioning early in the game with the altercation we saw on the bench in the second quarter. Early in the second quarter, I might add, just kind of show where they were as a team, and to go from the "we won Dallas" chants a few weeks back to fighting each other on the sideline just kind of shows where that franchise is at. And so people are going to talk about the NFC East being the division that it is, but it's clear that we're the class of it. And it was great. We saw earlier in the day that based off of some technicalities, the Cowboys already won a division, but they stuck their flag down tonight and made it clear that they were the class of the NFC East. So also proving that they're on to bigger and better things. So I'm super excited about them slamming the door in the division, making sure that everybody understood that they're the class of the division and that we're moving on to bigger and better things. So I just don't want to get ahead of ourselves, but it was important for us to kind of be able to put this division to bed as early as possible. And so that whole week 18 thing, as far as win or go home, that's out the door now. Obviously, there may be more things at stake as far as number one seed in a couple of weeks, but at least we know there is no issue about whether or not we're letting guys back in to give them some sort of false hope. So tremendous effort on all three phases as I mentioned earlier. So I'll kick it back to you, man. Any other thoughts and concerns, or just any sort of opinion about how things went as far as this game is concerned? Because I feel like you can walk away from this one feeling relatively confident going into a game next week against Arizona, who we've seen has their own issues to worry about.
Yeah, for me, it was mainly just getting out of here, out of this type of game, healthy. And so, with them being able to sit Dax, sit Zeke, Mari got some time off. Micah sat. Lawrence was on the bench towards the end, Gregory as well. So a lot of the heavy hitters was able to get time to sit, rest up for next week. And what was it, about midway third quarter, they sat him. So yeah, that was the main thing for me, was being able to get out of this one healthy. I think for next week, yeah, the it's going to be. I think it's going to be a good one. Even though Arizona's been struggling, they have a couple losses in a row. Don't have Hop as well, so I think it's going to be more of a struggle than what's expected. But I think just it's going to be early on. I think Arizona's going to try to come out. They're going to do some gimmick plays. They're going to come out fast, try to hit Dallas quickly. Just because of like that's what you have to do when you don't have everybody and you're going up against a team that's playing fast, playing and they're healthy as well. But I think that was going to go be able to survive that first initial hit of Arizona, and then it's just going to be off to the races at that point. Take over the game, especially with it being a late game as well. They pushed it back to being a local 3:30, 3:25 kickoff. So I think that was going to be ready. It's a last home game for the regular season as well. Dak going to show up. He don't want to be able to let this game get away. Because with the division now sold up, like you said, it's time. Hey, now it's the next thing that you need to play for, and that's that number one seed. Because we were talking about it, what was it, 2 weeks ago? We were thinking, I was like, at this point, might just have to start resting people that last game of the year. Like let Dak play that first half, then rest them, stuff like that. Don't want too much, but it's got to the point where say, well, you legit have a chance to get the number one. You have because you have the Sunday night game. You have next week for Sunday night. You have Vikings who beat Green Bay in Green Bay this go around. So it's gonna things gonna be crazy with that one. And so now say Dallas can actually have a high seed, get that number one, and also even if they just sit at the number two, if you look at the way that it ends up going, they'll end up playing number seven seed. So if they're not, let's say that they went out, beat Arizona, beat Philly, but end up only sitting at the two, then for the main thing that they end up doing at that point, that would knock Philly out the playoffs, or a good opportunity of knocking Philly out the playoffs. So then you still end up having that first home game. Then you win that first playoff game, the second home game would end up being like the Rams or whoever the Rams play. So I would like that with the late season Stafford instead of dealing with Tom Brady or Aaron Rodgers. Like, you know what? I know it will end up sucking as far as like not having the number one seed, but not having to deal with Brady or Rodgers until later. I'm okay with that. I'm really okay with that. I'm really okay with that. But that's like in the future. But as far as this game right here, yeah, they came to play. They got out of here healthy. Being able to, they'll celebrate this one for tonight to early part of tomorrow, and then it's time to get ready for Arizona. Because this Arizona team, yes, they've been struggling, but you got to treat them like as if they're. This is a playoff game, to be honest, because you can legit match up with Arizona in the future. Because of the way that they've been struggling, because they've dropped down to number five. Uh, yeah, you have San Fran that's right there behind us. Like I think it's a 2 game difference between them. So if Arizona lose out like these 2 games, then you have between Arizona losing the last two, let's say San Fran win the last two. Like things can get crazy. Things can get crazy. Then also, I think that would also allow Tampa to get number two, but neither here nor there. But the main thing is like Dallas, they can only take care of what's in front of them, and that's the schedule. And so Arizona, that's the next opponent. Come out with the game plan and take care of business. Because now we see that you took care of December like you're supposed to. Now it's time to take care of January. It's not time to be conservative, like we was talking about in the last video, where they're on the road. They like to get conservative. They still have that Eagles game on the road. Don't get conservative. You can put this team out of. You can keep them from getting in the playoffs. Bottom line, you don't want to let a divisional opponent get into the playoffs because crazy things can happen. What happened when what was it? 2009, 2008.
2008. Yep.
Yeah. So you had that's when the Giants got into the playoffs. Cowboys had the number one seed, ended up losing to the Giants, and boom, the Giants ended up going to the Super Bowl, winning, and beating the Patriots with the crazy helmet case. So things like that can happen. We don't want none of that to happen. Take care of the team in front of you. You have to win. That's all it is. You basically control your destiny by being able to just win out, and uh, whatever seed you get is what you get. But first and foremost, you need to win. What about you?
Yeah, no, I agree in that next week is the most important game, right? I think it's easy to look ahead because of how they perform tonight and feel like, are we good? But it's like you still have so much to take care of that if you're locked, if they were locked in where they are, if you couldn't get higher or lower than two, that'd be a different situation. But obviously, because things are so fluid, we saw Tampa take care of Carolina pretty handily today, but they're still obviously trying to work through some injuries, and so you never know how that goes as far as teams sneaking up on you. Obviously, nobody expected for Detroit to beat Arizona last week, so there's obviously any given Sunday type of mentality in terms of how things can go in this league. We've seen the Jaguars beat Buffalo out of nowhere. We've seen obviously the Broncos beat the Cowboys pretty handily this year. So you never know how things can go from a week to week basis. So I think for our perspective, from Cowboys' perspective, it's a situation where they in some ways control their own destiny. Obviously, Tampa's got, the ultimate I'm sorry, Green Bay has the ultimate say so in regards to number one seed. But, if for some reason they stumble against their last two opponents, we want to be in a position to take advantage of that opportunity. So, there's a lot to be figured out still these last 2 weeks of the season. But if you take care of business and take care of Arizona, take care of Philadelphia, you at least give yourself a chance for that. To your point, talking about, the number two seed and how things stack up currently, it may not be the worst thing in the world to be at that number two seed if things stay the way they currently are constructed. But obviously, you always take a bye if you can get it. Um, I think the thing is, doing what we can to ensure that, well, obviously, we can't ensure if there's a tie, but the way things are constructed currently, as far as three-way tie goes, obviously we have the advantage in that. And so it's just trying to figure out, how can we keep this one or two seed and not drop past two? I think this team show is, especially today, if they're able to sustain what they did tonight, that it may not necessarily matter, because even if you look at a Green Bay who barely beat the Browns by 2 points despite Baker throwing 4 interceptions. If you look at a Tampa Bay who obviously we talked about having issues with injuries at this point. If you look at Arizona, who we talked about losing 2 games in a row and kind of spiraling out of control at this point, potentially. If you look at a Rams team who it seems to be kind of riding the ship now, but has some issues with kind of fitting their new pieces in, whether you're talking about Von Miller or Odell Beckham Jr. And so none of those teams I just mentioned have had this sort of signature win that we saw, particularly against a team that was at least flirting with contentions for the playoffs. Not some team that was a 2-win team or a 3-win team. This is a team that had their fans walking around in the DC area a few weeks ago chanting they won in Dallas. So, I mean, obviously they were in contention at that point to at least, flirt with a potential division win or if a wild card berth was available. So, that's not a team to sneeze at necessarily. So you'll hear throughout the week that this was just the Washington football team or whatever, but no one's beating anybody 56-14. I mean, they're just not doing it. So they have the opportunity to really separate themselves if they're able to build up this performance. I do think it's important for them to be able to take a step back to enjoy this, but obviously know that Arizona is not a team to sneeze at, and that they have to take the same approach they took in this game into that game next week. If they do that, they have to obviously beat them by the same, discrepancy or the same, margin. But if they're able to dominantly take care of the Arizona team going into the Philadelphia game, we'll cross the bridge when we get there. But I think it's important for us to understand that this is a potential for a stepping stone. And if they can build off of this, knowing that they kind of you just felt and we talked about this in the preview where we both felt like they would breathe the brakes off of this team. We talked about it. We felt like that was the case. And so to see them get up like they got up a couple weeks ago against them and didn't use opportunity to take the foot off the gas, they kept the pressure on. They put up 42 in the first half against this team. They just kept their foot on their necks. And the hope is them being able to do that for almost a full 60 minutes will be enough for them to carry that into the following 2 weeks. And of course, into the tournament after that. So this is still a performance, man. I'm proud of how this team came together, dominant from start to finish. Heineke had nowhere to go. He was running for his life for the majority of the game. They took him out, put Brandon Allen in. And so it was just one of those things where it's like, I'm glad that this happened on national TV because if this was just a regular local game or whatever, it would kind of get brushed aside. But this is the only show in town, so you had to watch this bloodstain that took place. And so I'm excited to see how this thing goes from here. But certainly, obviously, don't want to count our chickens before they hatch. They have an important game next week, and that's what we'll look forward to. So we didn't want to have like a super long video on this, but just certainly wanted to be able to get on and get a recap of what we felt like was a really stellar performance by this team tonight. Will, any final thoughts before we put this one to bed tonight?
So once again, I want to shout out Dan Quinn, defensive coordinator for the Cowboys. Great plan. Uh, he's been real creative. If you watched the game, you would have saw Chris Collinsworth showing the different setups that he had for the D line from Parsons rushing. So you had Parsons rushing from inside, outside, different sides. You had Gregory rushing inside outside as well. You had Tank rushing inside outside. So it's just moving around. Just those are the three main players on the front seven. You had them moving around to make it really tough for when it came to Washington being able to tee off on them, being able to know where they're at, being able to have a plan to block them and stuff like that, being able to move them around makes it important. And then we also talked about it in the game that what's amazing about what's happening is the fact that they're consistently being able to rush four, get a good rush to where they can drop seven and have good coverage. and then they don't even have to blitz. The blitz has been a luxury at this point, being able to get their sacks, being able to basically help get their quarterback to rush to get those additional turnovers. That's what you've been able to see ever since Tank got back. Because before he got back, you had a good pass rush, but you still had to bring in the blitz every once in a while to help with the pass rush. Because Parsons was able to do work, or Gregory was able to do work, but it wasn't much anybody else on the other side. And then you did have Osa as far as being able to push up the middle or stop the run, but it still wasn't the same. Now you have four legit players consistently being able to push up between Tank, Neville, actually five really. You have Micah, Tank, Neville, Osa, and Gregory constantly being able to push up. And at this point, it's basically like stop the run on the way to the quarterback, and that's what like Jerry talked about it this past week, that the biggest difference on the D line on the defense is the front, being able to stop the run. Because last year, that's the teams were able to run so much on them that they had to put additional people in the box to where they were able to throw more on them. So this year, being able to stop the run, now you're able to get after the quarterback while you're stopping the run. Now the quarterback gets rushing. Now you're able to get more turnovers. So that's been what the big difference is. So this is all with Dan Quinn being creative with the defense, not just because he drafted Micah as a linebacker, keeping him at linebacker. You heard that he was a pass rusher in high school. Hey, let's go ahead and see what he'll be able to do in the league. And this did come out balling and say, NFL ain't that it ain't that hard. It's just all instinct, just me paying attention. Kind of like they played last week. It's just common sense. The guy that's covering him got blocked, so it's common sense for me to go cover this guy. It's just common sense. Even though he made that decision in like half a second, just to realize what's happening and have the speed to cover. So it's been insane. So yeah, Dan Quinn being creative is huge. Once again, Bones Fossils with special team making big plays. Kellen calling up plays to get turns still, a touchdown as well. And then the big thing for me, I hadn't given him much support, but McCarthy has done really well. I got to give it to him. If you would have watched his press conference today after the game, one thing that he was talking about. So he had like the number one scoring offense, number one offensive lead, but his main thing was complementary football, that the all three phases, your offense, defense, and special teams, to complement each other to be able to win. He was having the number one offense in the league doesn't guarantee you a championship. Playing complementary football, it's not a guarantee, but you have a better chance of being able to win, because if you have the number one offense in the league, that can still put a lot of stress on your defense to try to keep up with that. Because if they're constantly scoring or playing really fast, now the defense going to be up on the field a lot, end up getting tired, and now it's not really helping anybody if the offense is moving the ball, getting off the field really fast. It's not going to help the defense. So right now they're really playing complementary football, because now they're being able to run the ball a little bit more. Dak, this game he really protected the ball. He did have a couple of wild throws, but it wasn't as bad as it's been a couple of weeks. So I think that's really big, like complementary football, being able, because they got a touchdown. They got, what was it? Six touchdowns from the offense, and then a touchdown from defense, and a touchdown
For
for
special
special
teams
teams
this
this game.
Right.
Like that's insane to be able to see it that way. So this was a complete complementary game, and this is what you can see when you play that style. So what you got?
I'll say two things. Kind of piggybacking off of the Dan Quinn thing. I can't remember what game it was, but I remember maybe the fourth, somewhere around week 4 and week 6, there was discussion about handing Micah Parsons the play calling on defense. And there was one game where they gave him the play calling because they felt like he was handling so many things that they were giving him, and they wanted to kind of give him this to say, let's see how you handle this. If we put it on your plate. And I don't think he did particularly poorly, but I think it took away from him being instinctual, and they took it off his plate like the next week. He had it for like a week and they took it off because I think they kind of recognized that we don't want him thinking. We just want him to be instinctual. And if you have him having to kind of quarterback the defense, it's taken away from his ability to just be instinctual and just react, where he's having to actually, call the plays and make sure guys are in the right spots. You're taking away from his ability just to be himself and be that creator. And you don't have those plays like we saw against the Giants where he read the pick play and instinctually went to go cover their wheel route. So they I appreciate the fact that they're being fluid and that Dan Quinn is being able to adapt and say, not that you can't handle this, but if we want to maximize what we get out of you, we don't want to put that kind of pressure on you to be that guy, the quarterback of our defense just yet. So I appreciate the idea, and I don't think he failed necessarily when they gave him that, but I think they just kind of learned from it in a way that says, we would rather you just be that sick'em guy as opposed to read and react, just go based off what you feel is distinctual. DQ can correct him if he's not in the right spot or if he's, maybe over aggressive in certain instances, certain reads. He can correct that, but just let him be him. Let that dog loose. Let him do whatever he does and not put too much on him mentally to where he feels like he can't be his full self because he's got to worry about, did I give them the right call? Is this guy in the right spot? Do I need to change the alignment here? Do I need to shift the coverage here? Leave that to other guys who are veterans and understand things that can make those adjustments without it affecting them mentally too much to where they're not able to do their job. So I like the fact that I appreciate the fact that they saw enough in him to give him that opportunity at first. And I also appreciate enough that they were able to say, not that he can't handle it, but we want him to be that dog and just be able to go get him and not have to worry about all the other aspects of the defense. So credit to Dan Quinn for that as well. And obviously, you talked about Bones Fossil outside of Sterling. It's just been a masterclass of coaching, and we saw that in LA when he was with the Rams. And we hope to kind of see that here, but we've seen it obviously in spades this year. So hats off to him as well. One last thing before we go, I'm gonna steal a page off of Rel. We talk Mavs, and I went through a quick spin on things. I did not talk to you about this, but just talking while you talked, that kind of came into my head. Game ball in this game. Who are you giving it to? Who do you feel like deserves a game ball in this after this game?
Whew, game ball, game ball. I'll give it to Dak. I know it's like cliche that the quarterback gets it, but he had a hell of a game. Over 300 yards. I think he was like 330 or something right around there. Over 300 yards. Got a touchdown, running back, O line, tight end, and wide receiver. Uh, Second time that's happened. First time since '99 uh, when Kurt Warner did it. So I got to give the game ball to Dak because this was a game where he was able to silence people. I think I told you right before the game started. Say I feel like this is kind of like Tampa, where Dak is. I don't know who else is going to show up, but Dak is going to show up. And that's how it was with the Tampa game. Dak showed up. They wasn't able to get the dub that one. Defense wasn't up to par that game, but they are now. But for that was like, Dak is gonna show up. So we're gonna see who's gonna be here with him. So that's what happened today. Dak showed up, and everybody showed up with him as well. So to be able to, at least for 1 week, put to bed him being in a slump. So yeah, he gets a game ball. What about you?
I almost want to like split the game ball in half, but I'm not gonna do that because I feel like that's like cheating. Um, this is gonna be an unpopular opinion. I'm gonna agree with Mike McCarthy. I think that he got these guys ready to play in this game,
I get it.
and I think that you talked about this a little bit earlier in this video, and I think it's easy for us to pile on, certain things. So we've talked about clock management forever, doing these videos. We talked about, calling time out to certain spots or not calling time out to certain spots, and maybe going for it in certain instances versus not going for it in other instances. Um, but I can't think of anything, and maybe I'm wrong, but I can't think of anything in this game where I felt like, and obviously when you're ahead, it makes it easier. But I can't think of anything that I can question in this game. And also, I think that there's a reason why this team didn't take their foot off the gas like they did in Washington when they played them a couple of weeks ago. And I think that instilling the importance of that has to do with coaching. And so I'm going to give it to Mike McCarthy. I thought about giving it to Kellen Moore because I felt like he called a great game today, and got back into some of the more explosive plays. We saw more shots down the field in this game. We saw more pulling linemen and moving and doing outside runs in this game. So there's certainly credit there, but I think because of the fact that it's been easy to pick on McCarthy, I'm going to give him the ball on this one because I feel like there was just such a complete game that I don't think happens without having the guy at the helm being what he is. And so we talked about him not getting the credit he deserves and it being easy to target him. So I'm going to give him some love. So I'm going to give it to Mike McCarthy in this one. But it's a good thing when it's hard to pick who gets it, right? Because it means there's so many guys that earned that tonight. But I'm going to give it to Coach McCarthy, man. We saw a graphic that I think this is his ninth 10-win season. So he deserves a lot of credit for that. Obviously, people talk about, we got Aaron Rodgers or Brett Favre or whatever, but it's like we've seen how many teams have you seen have a talented quarterback but don't get across that finish line. There's something to him being there. I'm not saying that he's a genius or that he's, whatever, but say what you want about him. He won a Super Bowl. He won a Super Bowl. So from at least from that perspective, he should get some sort of credit for that. And so we'll see how things go moving forward, but I definitely feel like he deserves some love in this one. So I'm going to give it to Coach McCarthy in this one.
Good call.
Any last words just before we wrap this bad boy up?
That's all I had was just shout out. Dak had a great one. Offense was rolling, defense was rolling. Coaches and the coordinators were on one today. They knew it felt like they knew how important this one was. So moving forward, I hope they keep that same energy of, hey, it's go time. At this point, it's you basically have to treat every game rest of the way as a playoff. You only have two regular season, but you still got to treat them as playoff games to be able to get where you want. So that's all I got.
Awesome. Well, always honor, bro. Appreciate it. Thank you guys so much for rocking with us. Obviously, we're a little late tonight, but this will be available on YouTube and Twitch for you guys to watch if you couldn't stay up late with us tonight. We will be back at some point this week. Not putting a day on it because there's also another holiday at the end of this week. So we'll let you know how things go. I really honestly wanted to get this one in because we wanted to obviously recap this game and kind of talk about Arizona. I don't really care too much about week 17, so we'll get there. But we felt like this was certainly one we wanted to get out. So we'll keep you guys updated on the next broadcast. But as always, you guys, Glow Sun Sports on YouTube is where you can find us. Glow Sun _ Productions on Twitch is where you can find us. Glow Sun _ Production on Instagram is where you can find us. Glow Sun _ Sports on TikTok is where you can find us. Please don't forget to subscribe to all those things. And for those that are interested, if you have not seen it, Glow Sun Geeked has a new video up. Will, you want to talk about what we're discussing in that video before we wrap this one up?
So we kept it simple. We hit on Hawkeye first, talked about the season finale, how it stacked up against the rest of the Disney Plus MCU shows, which to me did really well. Just could have been better, but it's enjoyable.
It was good.
Yeah. And then, of course, had Spider-Man talk. Not gonna do any spoilers on here, but we did talk Spider-Man. So if you've seen it, go check out our video. Make sure you comment under, tell us what you think. Some things that got to you as well, like it did me. But it was fun. It was fun talking about it. Then this upcoming week, so Matrix dropped on HBO Max, and then on Wednesday we have Boba Fett dropping as well. So we'll be back to talk about those two. Let you know our feelings about both of them and how we hope that, especially with Boba Fett, how it'll be moving when it comes to Star Wars storyline as well. So make sure y'all keep up with this. We're pushing to do a live show when it comes to Glow Sun Geek as well. So it'll be fun as well. So we're doing things. We're doing things.
We moving, man. So yeah, please stay locked into us, guys. We appreciate it as always. And for Will and Jay, and we are out.